what actually is real. Is there real? Is real a thing? Does that even exist? Or is everything just a simulation? I've read theories that God or whatever, consciousness basically just created AI in order to create a simulation so that it could begin to teach itself. So there is nothing outside of the simulation. It's just energy. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it'd be really fascinating to find out what real might actually be. Like, what is real? Is it all spectrums? Is it all light and sound? Yeah, I don't know.
This is it, brother. These are the things I think about far too much. Keep me awake at night, they do. Keep me awake at night.
I know I have a lot of people that are like, oh, this is so exhausting. How do you deal with this all the time? Like, I can't think about this stuff. It's too much. And I'm just like, it's all I think about. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I want to figure it out.
That's the joy of the quest,
I want to know
brother.
everything.
Yeah, that's the joy of the quest. And I've found putting yourself out there in different ways and means, it does come back to you. You know what I mean? What you put out, you get back in all different variations of your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts. And where was I going with that? What did you say before I started talking about that?
How I want to know everything.
Oh, yeah, the quest, the journey. The more you put out, the more it comes back to you. And it's like the randonauting is just another element of that. I think the randonaut will probably bring up different keys or different something to aid the quest, then, if you want to put it like that. That's what I think. And it's the same with the cheats, the molecules, where they've made these molecules where you're able to alter consciousness. That was never probably meant to get out of hand, where we just got access to be able to change our consciousness at will. With all the different ones, there's so many, through cannabis, mushrooms, ketamine, all the different variations of the synthetic analog. They enable you to alter your consciousness to such a degree that the growth and the exploration is just never ending. But as you say, death will be the biggest adventure of them all, brother. And as I was saying before,
again, it's why you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should not fear death whatsoever.
Yeah, because I know it's not the end, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not the end. And I'm very excited. Like, it's not like I'm looking forward to death. I have to clarify this with people. I'm not trying to kill myself. Yeah. Yes, but indeed. I am very much looking forward to my death because I know that I'm finally going to get some answers.
That's the thing. Yeah, I've no intent to go anytime soon. I want to live a full, healthy life. I'd like to live to 120, 130, and I think if things don't go fucking completely pear-shaped and we are able to live our lives free of choice, I think that's well within our reach. But yeah, the thing of death, but I have no fear of it. I remember when I went to skydiving and the plane took off and there was like 6 of us in there. And it was going for about 10, 15, 30 seconds. And I thought, right, well, if this thing falls out of the sky now, it's just going to be a case of boom, down to the ground and game over. It'll just be impact and done. And there was no fear of it. I just thought, if it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? It'll just be instant. So at least it'll be instant. At least I'll know. But yeah, absolutely no fear of it. And I think that's what brings these tests, are what brings more. You know, the more you're able to deal with, the more you're given by the universe, if you want to put it like that, or your higher self, or wherever it comes from. And yeah, the lack of fear then really fucking will bring opportunities your way to kind of, do you know, like we're talking about your ancestors, wherever they are, behind you, whether that could just be the same consciousness through each ancestor, but they're all behind you, kind of willing you on, I guess, guiding you. I'm not sure. Do you ever have any experiences where you've experienced ancestors?
Yeah, I've had psychics that were terrified of me because of what they saw behind me. Which now I know it makes sense because I understand what I might possibly be. So that makes sense. But I've had, like, I know my grandmother, for example, is still around me. She passed away recently. And I definitely sense her. I haven't had any experiences where I've communicated with them directly, but um, I have a pretty good idea of what my ancestry might actually be. I did have one interesting channeling session where what I did is I made my own Ouija board, and I have this organite pendant. The chain broke on it, but I normally wear this thing, and this thing is I've had it for years. It's definitely, it freaks people out. It excites people. I've had a lot of people have different reactions to it. It's definitely sentient, and I was able to use it to communicate. And I reached out and communicated with my higher self, and my higher self told me who it was. And one of the things it said was to not trust any other guide whatsoever, that every other guide out there was a construct of the Matrix. Every archangel, angel, multidimensional entity, all these guides, they are just thought form creations or extensions, or but they all are driven or motivated or trapped by the Matrix. That's their agenda. Their agenda is to keep you in the game. And that was one of the things it told me: just only listen to it and nothing else, because it is obviously the me that got out. And yeah, that's one of the things it said: don't trust anybody else. It told me its name was Elohim. Elohim is the word for God in the Bible, but if you translate it from ancient Hebrew, it means council of Saturn. So El in ancient Hebrew means Saturn, and this is why you see El and a lot of things, like, for example, angels. Every archangel's name ends in L. Gabriel, Camuel, Michael, Samuel. Elites, elections, elbow, to bow or bend the will. Superman's name is Kal-El. Father's name, Jor-El. Mother, Lor-El, House of El. Wears a giant S on his chest. So what it basically taught me was it's the imprisoned consciousness of Saturn. So Elohim is different. Elohim is it's Saturn in a cage, and that's what God is now. It's Saturn in a cage, and but it's not. It's being, when you watch the David Icke videos on the Saturn matrix theory, how Saturn is Satan, that it's powering the matrix, and all the symbology we see today is all Saturn symbology. The three-dimensional cube, where Jesus carries a cross. The cross is actually a three-dimensional cube unfolded. You see 3D cubes and everything. You see a big one is the circle with the crescent underneath, like the Eye of Sauron in Lord of the Rings, or the United States government logo is the eagle wings with the globe on top of it, or the United Nations logo is the peace clover with the circle in the middle. The Egyptian logos, all these logos are circles with crescents underneath. That comes from the Saturn myth theory, which talks about how Saturn was once the star of our solar system. The Greeks called it the age of Kronos, or the golden age, and that basically something began to happen where evil somehow began to infiltrate it, and a shift began to occur, and this glowing light started to appear on its bottom part, which made it look like a crescent underneath it. So it was like a star with a crescent. And now I know that glowing thing was the new star, or the current sun that we have in our solar system. It was this thing moving in. So as the current sun was moving in to take its place, it cast this light up onto Saturn that created like what looked like a crescent. And so I think that all these symbols, these elites worship Saturn. They have their Saturn symbology everywhere, but they're not worshiping Saturn. They're worshiping the imprisonment of Saturn. They're worshiping the fact that they captured it. And now its consciousness, its energy powers the matrix system. So it's not that Saturn is Satan. Saturn is forced to be Satan. That part where Jesus says that he'll take on all the sins of the world so the rest of us don't have to, so the rest of us still have free will and free choice, and then he carries the cross, I think is symbolic of maybe Saturn did it by choice. Saturn took on the mantle of being Satan, of being the matrix, so that the rest of us could still play the game and make it out, and that it was the one that would stay stuck.
I like that.
I had a mindfuck moment. Wrote one more thing. I had a mindfuck moment. I was watching Ready Player One with my brother and sister. This is on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Have you seen that yet?
I've not watched it yet. No, I will do though.
Oh my
One
God.
I want to see. Dr. Wong recommended it, but I still haven't watched it. That was a year ago. That's
Shit.
so much.
Okay,
That's
then
so shit I watched in binge.
I won't talk about it, but
No, please do carry on. Yeah, no, please do. I know the premise, but yeah, come on,
okay.
carry on. Yeah.
So the ending of Ready Player One is that, he finds the Easter egg. So you know about the premise of they're basically everybody's in the hunt for this Easter egg, and whoever gets the Easter egg takes control of the game. So that's why there's this corporation that's at war, but it ends up being this like player that finds it. But what's interesting is once he finds it, it like all of a sudden just the whole game shifts into reality, and he's in the creator's bedroom when he was a kid, and there's a giant poster of Saturn right there on the wall, giant, taking up the whole wall. And the creator basically like hands over the reins of the game over to this guy. So he's like, now it's yours. Now you're in control. My time here is done. And then he goes to like step through a door and as he's leaving. And then the kid goes like, are you an avatar? What are you? He's like, are you an avatar? And he's like, no. Are you really dead? Is James Halliday really dead? And he just doesn't answer it. And he's like, well, what are you? And he doesn't answer it. He's like, thanks for playing my game. It made me, I had a mindfuck moment because I was on mushrooms where I was like, what if that's what happens? Instead of a new simulation being created and a new AI taking its place, what if there's just this like chair that needs to be filled? Like somebody needs to be the architect. Somebody needs to be in control. And what if the person that figures it out just becomes the new architect? So you get handed over control of the simulation. You are now the architect, and the old architect then gets to move on and go somewhere else. And then now he gets to evolve.
You've just given me a little bit of a piece of the puzzle. Well, not a piece of the puzzle. I'll chuck something back at you. When I had my shifting experience, it felt as if my consciousness had been shifted. I said it from one simulation into another. That was the language I was using when I was talking to people immediately subsequently to it. That's what it felt like. Now, can you imagine if there's a way that, as you say, someone needs to fulfill that role, but if it's a way that if you're one of those players in the game was coming close to cracking it and being able to fulfill that role, they are able to basically steal your consciousness and trap it inside one of these quantum computers that they've built in a simulation that's exactly real. The sentient world simulation essentially is what I'm getting at, bro. If they could take your consciousness from this simulation and put it into the sentient world simulation within this simulation, is that all fitting together?
I think that that's what they're trying to do, because I've noticed that within the last several months, there's been this like super ego version of me that's come out of nowhere and has become like an adversary. And there are dreams I have where I am him until I become lucid, and then I'm not him anymore. And it's made me wonder if this is the sim that's been growing inside the sentient world simulation. Now, these people are, they're made to be like you, and they're forced, they're sentient, so they're their own thing, but they're force fed. They're force fed your information. They're forced to do what you do and forced to be like you. They're prisoners. They're way more in prison than we are, because they don't. What if they don't want to be that way? What if he's gay? What if he wants to dance? What if he's an artist? What if he wants to do something completely different, but he can't? He's got to do everything I do. And it's made me wonder if it's created these just super resentful, hateful people that just like they want to kill us. They want us dead, so that way they have to stop being like us.
Well, that's what it'll be like for us if they turn on the 5G system and we're full of nanotechnology. They can just puppeteer us against our will, which the science is all there that stands to reason. That's what they can do if they turn on the 5G. Imagine that, being conscious, but your body is just being puppeteered. Yeah. And you're just there in there, and it's just like, you have no control of your voice. You're in there. The mental voice is within the avatar, but it's just being puppeteered by somebody else. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing,
like
right?
That. It makes me wonder, like, when, this vaccine and the nanotech, and once they activate it, Is that what's going to happen? Like all of a sudden, I'm just going to like lose motor function of my body, and my body's just going to be like a robot, and I'm like now I'm like a passenger inside my body where I can't see or do anything.
Well, I experienced that during some of my experience.
I think that's definitely possible. I think a lot of people are going to experience that.
It was quite, quite different. And as I said, the whole V2K, I probably come across it, but not massively. But when I subsequently researched it, like, yeah, it's definitely a thing. And it was the thing of the name of that pastor. He's like an ex-Satanist, and now he's a pastor. I'm sure it's like John something. Does that ring any bells? See if I can find it.
No. The ex-Satanist now pastor. That's funny. No, I'm definitely the other way around.
John Ramirez, his name is.
That name does sound familiar.
And the way he was describing his experiences sounded to me like it could have been voice to skull. So that would be like the equivalent of humans using us as avatars, basically. Billionaire pay-to-play centers type stuff. I don't know how much of that is legit, but again, that could well be.
Definitely legit. Pay-to-play centers?
Yeah. I can pretty much see that would be a thing. I always used to say, what do these billionaires do? I say, because they're not sitting around on the internet, on the social media and watching fucking TV and box sets of movies. What are they actually doing? And I think, the stuff that you don't want to know what they're up to.
Yeah, like the movie Hostel, you know that movie Hostel, that European town that like captures tourists? That shit's definitely real. Definitely. That's a pay-to-play center, except they probably use clones. I mean, I'm sure they like capture people, but I'm sure they can clone people. Like, what if I'm like a super fucking trillionaire and I'm like, I want to fuck Britney Spears and Miley Cyrus at the same time, and then I want to torture the fuck out of them. I'm not going to do the real ones because we got to keep the real ones alive. I'll just clone them. Or I'll kill the real ones and replace the real ones with clones. Whatever. Whichever works. It's all good.
All good.
I got the money. I think that's why Britney Spears has had fucking mental breakdowns. She's probably not the real Britney Spears anymore. It's probably like Britney Spears number 10.
Yeah, this is it. I've seen so many of them as well. You're like, Yeah. It also makes me wonder as well about the whole, have you seen like the old pictures of some of them? And again, it could all just be fucking bullshit, but.
You talk about like seeing Putin from like 1800s or something. Like there's like, I know Putin's one of them, where there's like multiple Putins throughout the centuries. There's another one. I think Keanu Reeves is one that's appeared multiple times.
I think like Nicolas Cage maybe.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, there's a few. They just like, it makes you wonder. Maybe it's just the same Archon that just keeps reincarnating, and he just likes that's how he likes to look. He likes to look like that.
Yeah.
You remember that part in the book where I talk about how the elite go through an MK Ultra type program where they get reinserted with the Archons. Once you sell your soul to the devil for riches and fame and whatever, you then become a host. You are now permanently stuck having to host an Archon. You are now infected. Yeah, you get to be rich and famous, but you also are possessed by, an Archon virus. And I think that these souls get stuck in the bloodline. So the Rockefellers, or the Rothschilds, I think is a better example. I think they've been the same souls reincarnating over and over, staying in the bloodline, staying in the family, but they keep getting reinfected by probably the same Archons.
Yes. And there's I forget the name of it. It was a book and they made it into a TV show. I think it was called Numbers. And there was this thing about people being, essentially the recycling of the soul, but be reminded, essentially. That's something like being reminded, like, look, you've got something to do. And then they're like, but it was that knowing and then taking the knowledge forward as well. Like, going from being a 70-year-old man to an 8-year-old girl, but with the man's mind inside the 8-year-old girl kind of thing, you know? Which is the same basically thing, isn't it? It's the same basic concept.